Hi. In this video, I will summarize the key points of a webinar that we ran with Aaron Morris on June 5th on Agile Risk Management inside Jira. By the end of the video, you will have an overview of the benefits of Agile Risk Management and how to conduct it in Jira in 6 steps. Agile itself is all about fast feedback, continuous learning, breaking big problems and big work down into smaller chunks. But what if your everyday work and world is full of SOPs, compliance tasks, and audit trails? This is where the AME TRR 45 comes to play. You can map your agile workflows to regulated industry environments, particularly to the processes described in IEC 62304 and ISO 14971 for risk management. But let's look at the different steps. Step number 1, define your agile layers. And this is where TRR 45 really helps. And it breaks down agile processes into 4 layers. You have product, release, iteration and story, or backlog item layer. And the idea here is the key principle of agile development, which is to push as much of your risk and compliance activities down to the story layer. And this is the way to get traceability, agility, and compliance all working together. Step 2, configure your Jira for risk management. Before you can do risk management inside Jira, you need to set up Jira for it. And that means creating custom issue types for risks and hazards. Using SoftComply Risk Manager Plus, you can create risk models for your assessment, where you can map risk model fields to 14971 risk management. So you have the severity, probability, initial and residual risk assessment fields, and so on. And finally, in order to create traceability, you need to create and define link types inside Jira. So you can define your own link types, like creates a hazard, is mitigated by, mitigates. And this is all the basis for afterwards to do an end-to-end traceability. So when this step is done, we move on to the step 3. And this is high-level risk analysis. You start with risk impact. What does that mean? Is that when a new feature request comes in, you begin with a high-level requirements analysis, and as a part of that, you do risk analysis. In there, you identify a risk impact on a very broad level. Basically, is that feature impacting product safety? Is that impacting cybersecurity? Does it have implications for usability? So all of this to really help understand where we need to focus at. Then you can add hazards as Jira issues under custom hazard issue type and perform the initial risk evaluation using the Risk Manager Plus. And this is the first touch point where you have this cross-functional collaboration between your developers and your QARA or risk managers. Now, moving to step 4, we have low-level risk analysis. Now that you are breaking down your feature into epics and then into stories, you are completing the same risk management process on a story level. So you repeat that process. You identify hazards, assess the initial severity and probability, you link mitigation actions, you link and run tests to verify that the mitigation actions are working, log the outcomes, and finally approve the residual risks. And while you're doing all that, you are basically creating a live end-to-end traceability here through risks to requirements to mitigation to tests. And now that you have done that, you can assign the stories to sprints and to release versions. But moving now a little bit higher, so we have done the risk manager process now, and while you're doing that, you're actually also building your live risk register. SoftComply Risk Manager Plus comes with a dynamic risk table view, and in there you have all the risk-related fields and data that you can gather. You have your hazards, your severities, probabilities, your mitigation actions, your risk calculation, and of course all the different updates as work progresses. And at the end of each sprint, you review and approve each risk inside the risk table. So basically you look into, is the residual risk acceptable based on the acceptability criteria that you set in the risk model? Have all the mitigation actions been implemented and verified? And are there possibly any new hazards that are emerging? So this is your risk documentation, a live risk register inside Jira. And now step number 6, we are moving this live document into Confluence to create baselines of your release documents. And what that means is that you export the Jira-based risk table to Confluence. You can create a snapshot with SoftComply static snapshot app, basically to make the dynamic macro static so that you can sign them, because the next step is to route it for formal approvals using signatures in Confluence with, for example, the SoftComply Document Manager app. And documents that normally require this type of baselining are risk registers, requirement specification, traceability matrix, and so on. So these are the 6 most important steps for Agile risk management that you need to do inside Jira. And that's it. Well, there's actually one fun part. We always asked about how to get developers buy-in. Why would developers want to do Agile risk management or compliance tasks inside the software development lifecycle? There are a few answers that feel kind of logical. First of all, because you will create faster and smoother releases and fewer bugs when you bake compliance tasks inside your software development lifecycle on each step. Developers won't then have to do all the documentation and this huge checklist at the release layer. They only need to pull the different data that they are already doing and gathering inside the living documents to the release level documentation. So if you are baking your compliance tasks inside your software development work, you will actually get a safer product, but you also will be able to release faster. So it actually is something that most developers in the end will like. And as final words, Agile risk management isn't about sacrificing compliance at all. It's about embedding it into your everyday work, right where the team is working at inside Jira. But a few hints. Use the TRR 45 for your guidance. It really does give you a step-by-step guidance of how to bake compliance and risk management into your everyday work in software development. Push compliance to the story layer, so that every time you're doing the little processes, you will have some of the compliance tasks already taken care of. Ensure traceability through linking Jira issues, and that will definitely allow you to have this end-to-end traceability in the release documents, and use the right tools. Of course, use Jira and use the SoftComply Risk Manager Plus. Then on the Confluence side, use the static snapshots with SoftComply Document Manager. Thank you.